today we have a 2008 BMW, has Index 9 injectors. We're going to be upgrading them to Index 12's. So, as you see, we have 6 new injectors, all with the decoupling rings. A few tools you're going to need: an 8mm to remove the cowl. This is a specialty tool to remove the injectors. It's a little slide hammer. You got a pick tool, some kind of magnetic tool, 14, a 5mm, and here is a sheet that I'm going to write down all of the values of what's coming off the car and then I'll put the new value on as well to make sure that the correct one's going to the correct cylinder with the correct value. The car was started, fuse 70 was pulled to kill the fuel pump and try to depressurize the fuel rail slightly, and then as well as the batteries unplugged. First step, once you get the beauty cover off, let's go ahead and get some towel to absorb the gas that's going to come out. Here's your fuel rail. These are providing fueling to the injector. It's a 14mm, and then the injector is going to be a 13mm, so you're going to need to hold the injector while you crack it free. So first you're going to go to one side, and you're going to watch the gas and pressure release. Come down here, grab the injector, get the 14 on here eventually, and allow the pressure to release. Try not to spill too much gas. Now repeat that on all 6 of them, and then we'll show a shot when it's all done. Setting the last one here. Want to evacuate the pressure from the fuel rail. You'll be good to go. It can also help if you unplug the electrical connector for the fuel rail as well as the fuel pump. Just let the pressure go down. So you can see there's some corrosion here, as well as on these fittings and inside the rail, or the fitting. So you gotta be careful. Alright, so now, before we undo any of the old injectors, we're gonna just make sure these new injectors are good to go. Alright, so I'm just gonna take them here, some kind of pry tool. I'm using a non-marring tool, ideally to help me. Just gotta, of course, now it doesn't want to do it. Just pop these off. Do not touch the injector face, so that way they're going to be prepped up. You need to remove the shipping plug as well. But prior to that, you're going to take your decoupling ring, just slide it in, it snaps in. Just like that. I'm going to repeat that for all 6, and then we'll go on to the next step. So while we're here, we're just going to also take note of all of our new values. Okay? So we have the 577217. That's going to be on the left-hand side. This is your calibration for when you code the injector. It has the proper flow for whatever index of that specific injector. So you're going to need to take note of which cylinder you take it out of. So when you take out cylinder 1, you're going to need to note these numbers, and then which injector you're going to assign to that cylinder. We're ready to one last prep thing to start actually removing the injector. Go ahead and remove this 8mm nut off the stud. Remove the injector ground wire. Okay, next I'm going to come by and remove the actual injector supply. Just push back against the connector and out. Repeat that for all 6. Now, as you can see here, you got this little stud, and there's a plate that holds the injector, a pressure plate on the injectors. It's going to be your E12. Let's go ahead and crack it free. You're going to hear some pressure release. All right, it's off. Use a magnet tool to kind of pick the assembly up. All right, so it's hot still. The apex of the curve is up in the injector housing there, and it seats into the injector here. Now you're ready to start removing your injectors. I'd recommend using an injector puller of some sort. It's like a slide hammer basically. So we're going to start with your cylinder 1, all right, and we're going to remove it. And just for safety's sake, we're just going to go one bank kind of at a time here. And that's it, pops out. As you can see, it's 9. So we're going to need to annotate. This is cylinder 1, we're going to annotate the old coating injector. So that way when we coat it and recheck it, we can ensure that the value is good. Now making sure we have 5, 6. Make sure you have the 5, 6, 219, it's fine. Just make sure that this value is the same one coming out of the same cylinder. Take note of this beveling and this portion here, okay? So on the injector, you're gonna have the same bevel here and there. So you're just gonna go ahead, clean the area. Make sure you're not getting any debris in there. You're just gonna pop it in there. And that's it. All right, it's good to go. We're gonna show you one more time. Install the tool. Just gonna pop it out. Come in. So that's not good. It's probably coming from combustion. Gas and the spark is staying and it's getting on the actual injector tip. So definitely affect performance. All right, again now for reassembly. So as I'm going, I'm just fully reassembling that side. So I'll show you when I'm done, but now I'm gonna reinstall this plate. So again, the curve is gonna go downward. All right, and this is gonna seat over the 2 notches on the injector. Okay. So we're just gonna reinstall this now. You can't see it, so I'll show you when it's done. All right, just quick overview. The way I like to do it, make this a little bit faster for you as well. So we got everything prepped as I said, up to the point I stated earlier. So I got them in there, made sure they were in the correct positions. Just doing one by one. All right, so now I just have everything reinstalled. I have the plate torqued down to about 18 foot-pounds. We got the ground, injector ground, and then the injector supply is also ground in. All right, so we got the fuel supply also in there, so it's the 14. And since I just can't get a wrench, you're just gonna kind of go down finger tight. Once you can't get it finger tight anymore, just gonna kind of go at it with the wrench. All right, at this point, it should be good. So now I'm at like resistance. I'm just gonna pull slightly until the tension of the wrench kind of pushes back. All right, for this one specifically, since they're new, and we're reusing them, 13 on the injector, and same thing, just going slow and steady until you just hit some resistance. And that's it. That bay is fully installed. We're going to repeat it, and we'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. So this is the one we pulled off the car. I'm just marking it as well, the old one, for I can verify there's no mix-ups here. So as stated before, we have this value here, which is the calibration value. So I'm writing cylinder 4 in my cylinder 4 space. That's now associated to my new injector. So whatever coding method I use, I can check to ensure that the value was taken by the computer and actually upgraded. Alright, so as you see, it's all back together. All the injectors are in. So next step is coating, which we'll talk about briefly. Put all this stuff back and just kind of, however you decide to do it. Just get all this back here. I'm gonna restart this. And anyways, next step is to go ahead and reattach any electrical connections that you may or may not have detached for room. Like I removed this electrical cord and lifted the DME and removed one of the grommets to help move this wiring harness out of the way. Your choice. Also highly advised to remove this brace here. So at this point I'm going to reinstall the battery and we're going to talk about coding. So coding options. Here obviously you see a laptop. You can do a IMPA, Insta using a KD CAN cable or Ethernet cable. That's a great option. You can use something like a Pro Tool on your phone. Downside on that is it's for one VIN, so if you want to help a lot of people code a lot of things, you're limited. You can use a scan tool that has injector coding. That's what we're going to be using today. So we're going to click this option. You can do multiple cars, it doesn't matter. You can run all the diagnostics on this. The IMPA can. It has limited coding, but it can code injector modules, which we'll show. Alright, so now we're going to take our paper, and on the left of each value here is the new ones from each cylinder and the secondary value for each cylinder. So as I stated, we pulled out cylinder 1. Old cylinder 1 was 5712222. We verified which one we had, placed it in, cool, and then repeated the process where we didn't mix up anything here. Okay, so when we were doing these injectors, we also found that the first 3 cylinders were actually 9, and bank 2 or 4 through 6 was injector 6. Okay, so as you see here, I have index value with a 00.0. So that's going to be your larger number. Your first number on that left-hand side is going to be XX.X. So in this case, our injector value is 57.6, the calibration value. And then for the secondary value, or the one underneath it, the smaller value, is going to be 0.00 or X.XX. And in this case, it's 2.19. So let's get to it. Alright, so here, I didn't show exactly how to get to this point in the menu because you might not have the scanner. I'm just showing you case in point. So this is the old values. I have the old values here. Okay, so as we see, cylinder 1 was 570.220, but what we pulled off the actual injector was 571.222. So it can round up to the closest calibration. So that's what's on the injector, but the computer will round to the appropriate calibration needed for the fuel source. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and say OK. So we're going to choose to enter a new calibration value. Go ahead. Alright, so here we know we're at 1. We're going to go to keyboard, and we're going to just scroll through, and we know our new one is going to be entered in at 5, 7, 7, 2, 1, 7. And then you finish. I'm going to save it. And just repeat this through 1 through 6. come back when this is finished and I'll show you when it's saved. Alright, at this point we entered all the values. Just double, triple check. All your new values are correct from what we written down. Alright, so then at this point, I'll also just mention quickly it is on a battery charger. So, yes. Save calibration. And just do one more check to make sure we're good. And we're good. So I'm gonna go yes. Okay. So as you see here, it just rounded it up. So 5.75, 218, it's good. 5.76, 216, it's good. So everything's within tolerance, it's within 0.1. So we're good to go. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and repull fuse 70. I'll prime it and then we'll start it and we'll end back in the engine bay and check for leaks. Alright, so at this point, we primed it with the fuse 70 pulled about 4 times, about 3 to 5 seconds. Now we're just going to go through and verify that you can feel the flow in these rails. You can feel fluid going through it. Just going to be looking for leaks, making sure there's no leaks or any puddles of gasoline in the valve here. The cylinder head at any point. You monitor it for about 5 minutes as it has time to sit here and idle. When there's no leaks, put it back together and she should be good to go.